Hello everybody, welcome back to one of my favorite annual videos to film, or actually in fact it is biannual because last year I filmed it at the beginning of the year and I also filmed the sort of like autumn winter trends. So I suppose this video will be, as the title suggests, the trends for 2026. However, we will be focusing on spring summer because those are the fashion shows and the collections that I have seen so far. Whenever I film these videos, I always have to say at the beginning, please don't get mad about the idea of filming about trends. Not everybody has to follow trends. Yes, if you have style, you do not follow trends. But actually, as Miranda Priestley said very nicely in Devil Wears Prada, you think you are so above this little fashion thing. However, you think that you chose that sweater for yourself, actually it was chosen for you. And that is the thing with trends. Trends get dictated by the runway shows, by fashion shows, and they go so hand in hand with culture, with what's happening in the world, with economy and everything else. I mean, it's been proven that the skirt length depends on economic situation in the world. So there's so much the trends are saying and doing in the world. Like, let's not forget about the flapper fashion in the 1920s. That was 100 years ago, basically. That was kind of like a boom after the horrible war years. So trends are kind of important. They come and go and they mark an era. And whether or not you like that or not, it somehow still makes it to your wardrobe. So please don't get mad. We're gonna cover everything that I've seen so far from New York, London, Milan, and Paris, as I do tend to attend these fashion weeks biannually, and I'm here to bring it to you. Before we start talking about this, if you like fashion, trends, and all things like that make our life a little bit more decorative, I suppose, please do subscribe. I love discussing these things with you, and please, please, please do share what are your favorite trends from the ones I'm gonna mention, which are the ones you're definitely not gonna look at, and which are the ones you kind of are so excited for. I definitely have the ones that I think are more wearable than the others, and I will comment on that as well. What I'm gonna try and do for all of you who are on hunt for pieces, I'm gonna try and link pieces for my favorite trends in the description box below for maybe more high-end and low-end, like, so you can have high street and high-end versions. And for all of you watching on TV, I will put a little QR code here in the corner so that you can scan it and shop your favorite trends. Now let's get into it. This year has been harder than ever before. Fashion's been in like such a funny era with all the creative director changes. I think we've had more than 15 different debuts for spring summer 26, and we're experiencing so many more debuts still. It's like a musical chair situation currently in the fashion industry. I don't even know, like Dior or Chanel, one of the biggest fashion houses in the world, have had their debuts, and so has Balenciaga and Gucci. And I mean, kind of coming to comfort in their chairs at Valentino. Now we're having changes at Versace. That's changed again. I want to say Fendi. I mean, there's so much going on. Bottega Veneta, Celine. There's a lot to discuss. So let's get into it. Let's start with the trend number one, which maybe is also my favorite one, and that is like this liquid fabric situation. Some sort of draping, and just in general, a lot of fabric. Now, if you watch my previous trend videos, you will see or hear me say that we like to use a lot of fabric these days, and there's just like more and more. There's the volume, there's this liquidity to the movement, and like, I guess Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, all of these top fashion magazines have called this trend draping. I want to call it like liquid, voluminous fabric movement. There is just so much fabric right now, and I can't just put this trend into one draping category because there's a lot to unwrap, pun intended. Now, pretty much every single designer used the draping technique in their collections, and this has already started a little bit last year to the point that I feel like it's already trickled down to the high street, and I will give you some good examples of that. But I want to say that Alaya really gave us a nice little draping lesson. I think Valentino with these draping knots on the side, Elie Saab with a lot of material. In a way, there was also some kind of like scrunched material skirt situation at the Prada Spring Summer 26 show. Like those skirts and that like volume was just, it was volumizing. Coperni played with the draped balloon dresses. There was so much draping at Erdem as well. And these kind of trends are all in this one category of draping, like we said already, but I will also have to mention them later because this one trend is like a really big family that summarizes 2026 trends, which is why I wanted to start with it. Jacquemus was like draping all over. It was just unheard of. Stella McCartney with all those like beautiful like ruched dresses, and I felt like this was a little bit called by a huge Issey Miyake comeback last year. There was just so much like pleating and draping and volume that it was a natural kind of transformation or like natural beginning to a lot of material. Towards the end of 2026, I went heavy into totem balloon draped dresses. I wouldn't say they were just balloon, so I didn't put it in like my balloon trend, spoiler alert, but there was like draped balloon trouser like skirt, and there's this whole thing that a lot of the times designers were making skirts or trousers look like they were skirts. So I thought that was quite interesting. I also had like this really interesting orange dress that I've actually shown you in the second half of the year when I mentioned my previous trends, and it's proven to be like a huge trend for the year. So there you go. Not to toot my own horn, but I guess I was right. I think like trend number 2 would be balloon hams, like I've just told you, but this is not really a surprise. I know that many of you already have seen enough of the balloon jeans. They're like everywhere already, but this is something slightly different. Now, I'm gonna have to mention my favorite collection of the Spring Summer 2026, which was Pierpaolo Piccioli's first Balenciaga runway show. That was my favorite, and I think like that runway collection was so rich of everything. Like sometimes like the first collections are just not really giving when a designer comes to a big house, but that one was so rich and full of gorgeous materials, techniques, embroidery, everything. But the balloon ham dresses were my personal favorite. In fact, I think I've already discussed this with you guys. My absolute favorite look of Balenciaga or of Pierpaolo's first Balenciaga show was that like light pink balloon hem dress. The balloon hem is just everywhere, whether it's in short form like it was at, again, Prada or Dior, or whether it's in a longer form like the balloon hem trousers, kind of like more of a harem style at Elisab. Dior's bubble skirt, whether you love Jonathan Anderson's Dior or not, was very prominent, and we all know that all the houses look at what these big iconic couture maisons do. Michael Kors did a lot of bubble ham, and I cannot not mention Balmain that did a bit of draping and a bit of bubble ham situation. Not sure if this is going to be completely relevant. Of course, Balmain is an iconic and historical French fashion house, but they are about to have a debut as well this March, which I'm actually very much looking forward to, because I think like Balmain's one of those houses that had a creative director for such a long time that now it could really come back. If you know, you know. Okay, now the next one I've been warning you about. I've been telling you. I think I filmed several videos mentioning how in 2026 we're going to be so into character dressing. Guys, I think we've all seen enough of quiet luxury. I mean, we love it. We still love quiet luxury because we've had enough of like logo t-shirts and, you know, all of this stuff that just like went so far to one side that we pulled this like rubber band to the other side. I always feel like fashion is like a rubber band. When it goes to the far end, you need to pull the rubber band so far in the other direction so it can kind of like balance somewhere in the middle. Does that make sense? I don't know. In my head, it really makes sense. And I think we really need to add some character back to fashion. Now, I'm not saying quiet luxury is goodbye and you need to change anything in your wardrobe. Technically, you don't really have to change anything. You just need to add sometimes something a little bit more quirky that can show your personality as well. I mean, you can literally choose just one, whether it's color, texture, embellishment, fringing, even draping shows character, whether it's jewelry or just like a touch of something, like layering can be as well, adding character. And all of these have been heavily present on Spring Summer 26 runways. I have to mention Bottega Veneta because Louis Trotter used these humongously voluminous jackets that were actually made of recycled fiberglass, which, I mean, if that doesn't add character, I don't know what does. And they really stole the show in Milan at Fashion Week. I think that's like the complete opposite of quiet luxury, right, that we've been seeing lately. Matthew Blasi's first Chanel show had those voluminous, sort of like pleated, but kind of like layered skirts and dresses. Now, a lot of these styles had quite simple, let's say like quite simple bottom and accessory situation, but then a huge jacket, or let's say a very slim silhouette with a very voluminous skirt that kind of starts from like the third quarter, like a low waist kind of skirt, so that the actual look is not just like all over lots of going on. We're not talking like Jeremy Scott's Moschino. We're talking more like touch of character, not like you're going to circus. So it's very important to differentiate the two. Ferragamo, I personally love Ferragamo. Like the new Ferragamo for me has been so incredible, and the creative director Max, he loves to use fringe, and the fringing in that collection was just like really rich, but also a lot of like knotting, a lot of beautiful character-rich silhouettes. Here you can still say that the collections are quite luxury. They're quite sophisticated, elegant, demure, elevated, but with a lot of character, which is what we've been reaching for. Again, I have to mention Balenciaga. You see, this is why this collection was so great. And they had this specially crafted 3D embellishments that were just insane. And actually, when I was in Qatar in, I want to say October or November, I saw the actress Tessa Thompson. By the way, if you haven't seen her new movie, I think called His and Hers or something like that, it's a series, it's insane. She wore this like beautiful embellished dress, and I just like, I honestly like, I was like speaking to her, but I was just looking at the dress and it was spectacular. Givenchy had these looks that looked like they were full feather looks, but then I found out they were not even feather. It was actually like specially crafted silk, which is where the fashion is becoming so crafty and so interesting. I mean, I've already told you about Louise Trotter's Bottega and the materials she's using for her collections. I mean, I think you got the message when it comes to this trend, but I'm just going to remind you of two more collections. One is Mugler. That was pretty insane. Remember, I went to the show straight from the airport, and Mugler had these like feather outfits, crystal bodices. Mugler is known for being like provocative, but they've kind of done it in a very still interesting way, and yet again it was not too much. Louis Vuitton did a lot of embellishments, which was not really surprising for me because I think Nicolas Ghesquière just does it really great. Like, he's known for his architectural ways. But I still have to mention actually Alaïa as well. Sorry, forgot about Alaïa. Alaïa did a lot of fringing. They did a lot of structure. I mean, Alaïa is going to change probably now, maybe not, who knows. The studio will be handling it for the moment, and they announced the new designer, but I think that was very strong. Okay, so what does this mean for someone like me? Because honestly, even though I have so many fashion events and I feel like my life has a lot of social, like my social calendar is pretty packed, still, I'm not gonna wear like a freaking Chanel flamenco dress, or I don't know, like a fully embellished bodice, because I feel like also it's not really quite my vibe. But what does it mean? It means I'm gonna wear what I've been wearing. However, I will add maybe like a textured hat or a necklace that shows a lot of character, or maybe like on a very simple suit outfit, embellished gloves or embellished tights if you wear a little short LBD. Think about a black LBD, black classic heels that you already have in your wardrobe, and then just like an embellished pair of tights. That's the kind of character that we can implement into our everyday lives and not look like we're trying too hard as well, which is very important, I think, when it comes to fashion. I was contemplating whether or not I'm gonna mention next trend, and it's called the soft spring leathers. I think leather jackets are on my no-buy list because I said that I have way too many. But that might be a bit challenging as well, especially after seeing again Balenciaga leather jackets in the spring summer collection. They just looked one better than the other. Then we have Magda Buttram, that for me personally is Queen of Hearts or Roses, as you wish, and she does really the most incredible leather jackets. Her whole spring summer, but I want to say also like a little bit of pre-fall, is rich with these like leather tops and leather jackets that are very fitted and soft, not like heavy and weighty. They're more in the spring mode, and I'm excited for this because honestly, yes, florals were trendy. Yeah, we've seen the Chloe collection, we've seen the florals, but like florals for spring, I'm not gonna cover that. You know what I mean? The collection that when I left it, I was like, I better screenshot everything that I want right now because this is going to be hot, is the Hermes Spring Summer 26. It was just like leather bralettes, leather shorts, leather skirts, leather trousers. I mean, we're not surprised. Hermes is a master of leather in every possible way. But guys, the previous spring summer collections from Hermes were very, very strong, but they had like touches of leather, not like a whole spring summer 26 collection covered in leather. And I was really, really loving it. There was so much detailing to the back, which adds the character. You see like how all of these collections are actually just kind of like ticking a lot of different trend boxes, which I think is important to mention. Givenchy had a lot of leather bras under the suits as well. And so did Bottega, Burberry, Louis Vuitton, Coach. It was just like leather. So get your leather trousers out, get your leather jackets out, leather gloves. What have you got that has leather in it or that is like kind of like really, really having that vibe of like a leather look? What I think will be quite a chic look if you don't want to be like too trendy but you still want to be the girly that knows it. I think sort of like a stirrup leggings and a leather fitted almost like hourglass like blazer, or if your leather blazer is not hourglass, you can belt it in because again that gives character. And it's quite a simple look if you think about it, but I still think it's quite a powerful look. Extra points if the blazer is sort of like 80s cut, because 80s are definitely like 80s shapes are definitely coming back, but I'll get to that later. Now, I really want to talk about this trend because I think this is one of my favorites. Did I say that about every trend? I hope not. This one is very interesting and it's a scarf. It sounds a little bit weird. How can a scarf be a trend? But this is a multi-purpose scarf. So we're not just using scarves anymore around our neck. We are literally using scarves as a top, as a dress, to cover our head, to tie it in like a little triangle around the neck. That's been like all over my socials. I don't know what's on your Instagram feed, but I've been seeing these like kuchen scarves everywhere. I think the queen of like headscarf with the trench coat or an elegant dress has been Magda Buttram with her very like strong Polish influence that she's been bringing to her brand, which is what makes her stand kind of apart from everybody else, but also giving her so much authenticity. And she's been doing this kind of like headscarf in so many different ways, like leather, silk, what you want to call it, like crochet or woven. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, Michael Ryder for the Celine show did a scarf that was kind of like tied over the shoulder. So this is what I'm saying, not just a scarf as we know it, but a scarf as a kind of like part of clothing. So a scarf tied over your arms, I don't know how functional that is because probably you cannot then lift your arms, but it looks pretty cool. Saying Hermes for scarves is like saying florals for spring. So I'm just gonna put it out there, but you know what to do with it. However, the iconic Hermes scarves, you can really wear so many different ways. And you definitely and most definitely should wear them as clothing pieces, such as tops or summer dresses or sarongs even. Coperni did a scarf as a top for sure during their collection. But then in general, this like Grace Kelly glam looks so fabulous if you like tie a scarf around your head with like a big 80s strong shoulder trench coat. That's the kind of contrast as well that I think is really, really giving. And one last way I would like to mention how you can wear your scarves is as a belt. So think about like a longer scarf that you can tie around your hips, and it just adds something to previously maybe a little bit basic outfit. Elegant dressing is here to stay. We love the elegant dressing. We're not there yet, quite back to street fashion yet. I think like those two are probably opposites. And that's why the brands like Totem, The Row, Victoria Beckham, Ralph Lauren are really thriving at the moment. But I really want to say that the Victoria Beckham show, the last one I went to, Spring Summer 26, was really full of beautiful short and long elegant dresses. And we also kind of went to this era of slightly longer, more elegant, more demure looking dress. Totem does them great. The Row does them really classic. But I think all of these brands, also Tove, I cannot forget the Tove studio. All of these brands are really adding something to their looks. Whether it's a little ring that will add ruching to the shoulders, or maybe like, again, some sort of like scarf over shoulders, or what I'm gonna bring to my next trend, a poncho. Now, an elegant dress with my next trend, which is some sort of like a poncho over shoulders, it's a jackpot. I don't know if poncho is a great way to describe it, but I would maybe more say a cape. Magda did a lot of sweaters and dresses which have this like cape effect over it, but what's interesting about it, they are already kind of like pre-made into that. However, you can easily recreate this by just like adding like, let's say, a silk thin beautiful cape. You just have like, obviously you even like take a piece of like silk and you cut like a hole for your head and you put it over a dress. I think that's beautiful. I'm sure you've seen the capes at JW Anderson's debut for Dior, over dresses, over tops, over, not even over, like as some sort of like a blazer situation. Like those were not really capes, but they were kind of capes. Then there were a lot of cape dresses as well in general. I think like one brand that is very well known for cape dresses is Valentino, but now we have like this new Alessandro Michele's Valentino, which probably is a lot more known for character dressing. But think about it, like capes are just such an easy way to add something to your very classic pieces. I have to say that this is not just for elegant dresses, as previously mentioned, but it's also for any kind of capes. I love the idea of cape over a coat, and maybe like a plaid cape over like your classic coat, putting over a plaid, like wrapping yourself up into a scarf. I know we're now excited for spring summer, but this is just an idea. And the reason how I came to this idea, maybe it can be like a cape over a blazer. I think that's also very interesting, like a wrap. But the way that I got inspired is by my Phoebe Philo's leather jacket that comes with a cape. It's a detachable cape, but it just looks so hot. So like leather capes, wool capes, silk capes, any kind of capes, embellished capes. I mean, capes are also really caping. So it's a little bit more effort, I think, in dressing nowadays, but I'm kind of enjoying it. Now, some of you are going to be mad about the next one, but it's the drop waist looks, and we've seen it again in Matthew Blasi's debut at Chanel. There were so many of these like trousers and skirts with really low waist, but it looked really flattering. You know why? Because the last time we wore drop waist, we wore them with crop tops, and we're not doing that anymore, so there's no need to panic just yet. I've seen these beautiful drop waist pieces, suits at Balenciaga collection. You see what I mean about Balenciaga? I don't know if you guys really paid attention to that collection, but it was insane. Victoria Beckham did a lot of drop waist suits, and I think when that look came out, I remember saying like, this is so Victoria Beckham, like what she would personally wear, right? And Zimmermann, of course, they also did a lot of drop waist in their spring summer 26. Actually, like, I think this trend is here to stay, because just now at the couture collections, I've seen this one look at Valentino that had beautiful yellow drop waist skirt, and I thought it was my favorite look of the collection, because it just, drop waist when it's not worn with a crop top, just looks so elegant and so beautiful, and somehow gives a lot of like, I don't know, like chic, classic vibe. It just is really fresh. Personally, I think Calvin Klein had a lot of drop waist as well at their spring summer 26, with especially with their type of like 80s and 90s dressing as well. Now, next one I've kind of tapped into, and I decided to call it Peekaboo fashion, because I mentioned it before as well. It is when designers do like these purposeful cuts on the dresses. And they used to be more like slashes in the past, like accidental slash here and then something is showing, or like slash here. It's kind of like more like, it used to be more down the vibe of ripped jeans. Now we're talking architectural, well thought of, structured, tailored peekaboo moment. There's a lot that I loved here. I have to mention Prada. Prada did these gorgeous bras. That was more of like styling for the peekaboo moment, but then Jill Sander did incredible Miu Miu with like layering of aprons and again some sort of like cutout and peekaboo moments. Schiaparelli, all of these architectural windows in the clothes were spectacular. I mean, Schiaparelli just does it great. Even like the dress that I wore for receiving my award in December had a little bit of a cutout. Cavalli, McQueen, Sportmax, they've all showed a lot of this. Mugler with the side cutouts, or some sort of like high bodies. Dolce & Gabbana with their cutouts in sort of like almost like a sleepwear. Hermes with cutouts on tops, on the back and in the front as well as on the sides. There was a lot of cutouts and peekaboo moments that were just great for spring summer. And actually these kind of tailored peekaboo moments bring a lot of character to very basic pieces. So you can have, let's say, a classic tank top that just has something down the middle, and that already adds a lot of character. What's also great about this is that I'm sure you can find pieces in your wardrobe, or you can kind of style it to follow the trend. Whether you wear a body and very low hanging trousers, you are basically there. You're like in the perfect trend zone for 2026. Okay, we're almost coming to the end, but I had to say that the layering is huge. And layering for spring summer is not so easy, especially if you live in like Italy or Spain or France in the summer. It can be very hot I mean. And I know that there are much hotter countries, like I wasn't thinking like Middle East, etc. But I mean, when it's summer in the city, you guys, in Milan, it's like portal to hell. It's so hot that you don't want to dress up. You just don't want to wear any kind of layers. But if you have an opportunity to wear a bit of layers in spring and summer, definitely go for it, because that will be hot, looking hot, not feeling hot, hopefully. Now, brands that really layered heavily on runway spring summer 26 were Miu Miu with the aprons in this kind of like domesticated feeling. I thought it was quite interesting. A lot of layering. I think Prada with like these voluminous skirts that I've just told you about, that were kind of layered under tops and jackets. Then we had a lot of layering at Bottega Veneta as well. Layering at Celine, whether it was with scarves or tops over trousers, etc. And then, of course, layering at Loewe. We had these like kind of like colorful looks layered with leather jackets. There was just a lot going on at Loewe as well. Dolce & Gabbana was mixing day and night time. So there was some sort of like pajamas dressed up, embellished, layered like a pajama, and then a leather jacket. And that was giving that type of unusual layering that was very interesting to see. What I really like about this layering trend, I mean, I can name so many, again, I can name so many collections that included a lot of layering, Mugler, Givenchy. I'm just trying to think what I've seen. And honestly, what's really beautiful about this trend is that you don't have to spend €1 to actually follow along. So you can just wear, let's say, a skirt over a pair of trousers, or even like a very long top. You know, like you've seen it, I'm sure, this summer. There was that like lingerie style top that's a little bit asymmetrical towards the end, worn over jeans. It adds like almost like a skirt effect, and then a leather jacket. It's quite a nice layering technique. I also think that in general, layering is art more than anything else, and this whole trend is art of styling more than actual buying the piece that is trendy. So here you can play with the gloves, with the headbands, with the hats, with the tops, with the shirts. You can even style a tank top that you have in your wardrobe over a long sleeve top or over a turtleneck, or you can wear a turtleneck under a denim shirt and then belt it in with like denim jeans, like, and that's also layering. Layering is also wearing a scarf on top as cape over a blazer, or a scarf over your shoulders tied up. That's also some sort of layering. So layering is a big trend that is kind of like composed of many different things, but what's really nice about it is that you just need to get more creative and busy looking at what you already have, layering belts with scarves, layering whatever you want. The point is that you can do it with what you already have. And for the end of this video, we need to talk about colors. Colors were much more present on runway shows. I mean, it is a spring-summer collections review, but I have to say that I noticed a lot of more like red, light pink, blue, which is kind of strange considering that Pantone's color of the year was basically white. And I think it's like the first time ever that it was white, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm even wondering what are these colors of the year for even, and what do they reflect? I'm not quite sure about that. If someone knows, please let me know, but color was much more present. And I want to say that I've seen a lot of red, light pink, butter yellow, but I think that those three colors were not so surprising because we have had a lot of that in the past collections as well. But hear me out when I say that the blue is coming more than ever. And when I say blue, let me tell you, I've seen blue all over the runways. Electric blue, royal blue, cerulean blue, teal blue, navy blue, turquoise blue, sky blue, any kind of blue. There was so much blue, and I feel like teal may be more present than any other. Not that it's my favorite. I don't like teal because when I worked as a pharmacist, the uniform in the pharmacy, which pharmacist doesn't have to wear, but is what you see everywhere, was teal. And I guess PTSD, guys, PTSD. Did you know that like Yves Klein has his own trademarked blue? I thought that was quite interesting, and that blue was also quite, I think that's quite a pretty blue because it's almost like neutral, but it's almost like overwhelmingly blue, so I can't really quite even describe that blue, but it's really beautiful. I think that navy will be huge. If you're not into too much color, go for navy, and you can maybe replace your blacks with navy because that's what the designer Kate Holstein at Kate did. We had all of these navy looks, and usually Kate does a lot of black in her collection, but there was just so much navy this time. And then when it comes to other colors, you will see a lot of khaki. I've seen a lot of different shades of that kind of green. So like from sage to khaki, not like rich green, but also rich green. I think that that was quite present through, I don't know, like Balmain, Elise Saab. Versace did so much color. It was like an 80s comeback. Loewe did a lot of color too. Saint Laurent did these kind of like burned electric type of colors like orange and khaki and all sorts of like different, more color than usually for Saint Laurent. But in general, I know that this trend is not for everybody because some of you like your capsule dressing and do not love a lot of color. But I think if you do not love a lot of color but still want to tap into color slowly but surely, I would say that like maybe like a red turtleneck poking under something could be cute, or like red socks in a loafer, or let's say replacing your white t-shirt or white tank top or anything white you would go for, like a white shirt with a light baby pink one. It's kind of like still a neutral ground to play with. I do believe that this summer we will have a lot of light pink dressing, so replacing again your white shirt with the light pink will be a big thing. And I'm even more tapping into light pink, even though I've stopped shopping it. But have you seen my look for Valentino couture show? I basically wore a baby pink gown, and not only one, I wore two baby pink gowns during this haute couture show. I also wore Tamara Ralph baby pink gown. I wore even a jumpsuit which was pink, red, and burgundy kind of now to the beach. So yeah, pink will be very pleasantly around this summer, and I'm kind of okay with that, you guys. Now, I covered all the trends that I thought were interesting and very heavily present. I don't know what you guys think about them. Are you sick of quiet luxury? Are you sick of muted tones? Are you excited for more character dressing, more draping, more layering? Let me know your comments below. What's the trend that you like the most? Let me know. That's it for my 2026 trends. Waiting to hear from you. Like I told you, all the trends will be linked in the description box below if you want to shop them. I've kind of put them in different categories, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.